Good morning, viewers, and thank you for pronouncing Kitgum rightly. Very few people do that.
And Aber wrongly.
Yeah. And then, of course, we do have a former August member of the House. Now he's an analyst. That is Captain Francis Babu. Good morning.
Good morning. And, you know, last night I was watching news. The Americans have failed in their Congress to elect a speaker.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They've done it 2 times, and every time today they are going to go back. So another thing to think about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, all right. So let's look at what's taking the country by storm as of this morning. What recently happened in Queen Elizabeth National Park. 2 foreigners killed and a local killed. Something that has been given to the ADF according to the army. But I want to first get your reactions. What picture does this incident paint for us as a country? Let me start with you, Honorable Jonathan.
Thank you very much. I want to say it's a very sad time, and my condolences to the families of those people who have been killed. My condolences to the people of Uganda. I want to say that, first of all, terrorism is real, and it is all over the world. Terrorism is real. 1. Number 2, the US and the UK had warned us about this. They warned us of imminent attack. However, there are 3 questions that I would like us as a country to probe in respect to these killings. And then ban the evidence. That is question number 1. Terrorists all over the world would want to leave behind evidence and claim that we are the ones who have done this. But in this particular case, why would they ban evidence? That is area number 1 that we need to probe as a country. Area number 2 is why did the terrorists arrest these people? Why did they kidnap these people and demand for money, ransom? Why would they kill them? If they were terrorists, they would have arrested these people, kidnapped them, and demand for money. And then finally, how would the government come out very quickly to say this were ADF without even carrying any investigations? How? So these are 3 questions that we need to probe as a country. That before you even go ahead to claim this were ADF, was there any surveillance that ADF were moving around that area? So these are the questions that I would want us honestly to discuss. Otherwise, it leaves a lot of things to be doubted by personally me and then some people in Uganda here. What brought about these killings? Who is killing our people?
Honorable Aber, especially on the point of claiming, that has been a very, very big discussion in different groups, saying that if it was a terrorist attack, they always claim their works, and that has not yet come out. So why is government intent on, putting this on the ADF?
You see, my sister, issues of security are issues that need to be dealt with consciously. I do not agree with my colleague here when he says he's not sure whether it's the ADF or who is killing our people. When the security personnel come out and say this is the work of ADF, I am quite sure that it's out of their expertise and out of their security surveillance. Of course, when such things happen, there are things that security will not come out to explain to the public. And there are things that you may not need to know about the security, how the security does their work. It's an unfortunate event, definitely very unfortunate. And of course, it's something that we don't want to see it happen again. It kills our, our confidence. It creates fear. It also affects the tourism sector. But for me, I want to think that issues of insecurity is all over. Such things happen. Even in other countries it happens. It's not that when this particular incident happens, Uganda is totally not safe for any tourists to come. No, this is just an unfortunate event, and I am quite sure that the security personnel will really work hard. Why would they? I would want to assume, I don't want to be very candid about it, but I want to assume that when the security says this is a work of ADF, it's because of the past, incidences that has happened, quite similar incidents that has happened in these areas, and that is from that angle that I think, and also based on what the covert operations they've done, that's when they come and say. So I really don't want us to drag the discussion of and creating a fear of saying who is killing our people, what is happening. I think that element, let's not take that direction. Let's just say, yes, security personnel, they have been doing great work on ground, but this particular one, you missed it out. You'd have maybe captured it before, proactively handling such things. But you and I know that issues of security, by the way, is also, you are part of it, and part of it, we also need to support the security work. For example, how do I support the security work? Being conscious in the community. You see something which is unusual. You see somebody who is unusual. It's not somebody who has been around. Movements which are uncoordinated. You report to the security. We need to help the security do this work. They are not robots. They're just human beings like us who have been entrusted. They're giving their lives to protect this country. We thank them for it. But sometimes they may not be as 100% as we expect. But we also need to support them. So they've been helping to keep the security of this country. So if one incident happens, we can't say they have failed totally in doing this. This is just an unfortunate incident, and I'm quite sure, just like the President sent in the letter yesterday in Parliament, a statement, he did mention that these terrorists will be handled, they will be crushed. I want to believe that him being somebody who is experienced, our army, our soldiers, our security personnel being one of the best in East African community, I think we shall arrest the situation. Let's just be positive and not drum that kind of putting an incident like it is now the worst situation. And I have a problem with us Ugandans. When something happens, I have seen things happen in other countries and they try to manage. But for us, when something happens, a bad incident like this, everybody's throwing it on air, like not even minding about the image of the country. I think we need to be patriotic. When I talk about patriotism, some people get nagged about it, but it is the fact. Okay. We need to love our country. We need to support these sectors. You are speaking about creating this doom situation in the country, but not knowing that you're actually killing the tourism sector. I think we need to also look at that angle.
Let's look at this from the angle of tourism, Captain Francis Babu. Of course, curiosity kills the cat. While people are still strongly saying that, why are you pinning this on ADF? Perhaps it's poachers. Perhaps it was other parties with their own intentions, whatever the case might be. Either it's creating a lot of insecurity within the area itself, a lot of panic. You must be reminded that there's already tourists that are within that area code as we speak, and as of the day of that incident, and they're fearful of their life. How do they move? Where do they move? And what is the security of their movements to maybe get back to Kampala or even get back to their original places of where they come from? So when we look at it from that angle, what's your assessment?
Well, first and foremost, it's very unfortunate that Uganda has got this problem, and secondly, the tourist industry. If you want to make a statement to the international community that Uganda is unsafe and is a very dangerous place, you hit the weak spot, which is, of course, tourism. Secondly, the location of where this happened. That whole area is affected by guerrilla warfare, which is used to try and fight for many, many reasons. They are fighting on the Congo side, they are fighting on the Ugandan side. There are all sorts of ways and means of talking. But when we talk about security, we have to be very careful. Uganda, when they're in a security of that nature, where terrorism is involved, the tracking of all this is not done by Uganda alone. This is an international terrorism problem. Therefore, there are other security agencies around the world, including even in this country, where they exchange notes. I'm quite sure the radar of the different security organs, including Uganda, did identify what happened here. Unfortunately, it was a leak. They went through the security. See, it's a very wide area. You cannot put security people every 1 kilometer or whatever it is. It is therefore, and by the way, if you put yourself in the shoes of ADF, as weak as they are, they've got to get a target that will make a statement. As we talk right now, there's an American driver who have been kidnapped on top of this security incident. So I want us to give the benefit of no doubt to our security committee, the national one, of which the president is the chairman, and all the other security organs, that they are trying to find out. And by the way, I've seen on social media they have already posted people who they have already killed. Unfortunately, on the social media, the images are rather gruesome, but they have already shown them, and shows that the security forces are pursuing this group. And to go into the mind of the people who are fighting is a very difficult thing, because they fight for certain reasons. One, they want to know that their presence is there. Every time you say, well, we've crushed them, they want to show you they're still around. And they do this purposely. There are many methods of doing it. They can do it by kidnapping, like what we talked about, the American driver. They can also do it by doing this. And putting fire on the thing is another way of showing that they are not happy. They're trying to show you we are still here. And no matter what you do, as long as they're doing this warfare, because there are not many, there were about, I think, in those photographs which you just showed, there were about 10 or 12. And they don't need very big contingents to carry out this kind of thing. They need a very small. And it could have been just by coincidence. They happened to be in that place when the tourists were passing through. It's not something that is very easy to plan. Unless if you want to say that within the wildlife organization there are people who are working with them. All that will be investigated. But it's very unfortunate for the tourist industry. Remember, the American and the British and a few others have put out alerts about insecurity in this part of the world. And unfortunately, it does affect our tourism. Your answer. Our tourism will have a little bit of a problem.
Okay, all right. Well, that's a tough one, because these are, very peak months for the tourism sector, October, November, December. And so for it to happen, it definitely is going to be pinching on the treasury in one way or another. Honorable Ebwalu, looking at this incident and previous incidences, if you make an assessment, have previous incidences been handled in a manner satisfactory to yourself as a leader of this country and also to Ugandans? Even though in this particular incident we are seeing criminality being a repetition, especially for this particular region, and also the question of how can we move on from this?
No, just like I said, there are a number of rebel groups operating in that area. But one thing that we want to government to tell us, how did they come to know that these were the ADFs? That's the question. Because even before investigating, you go ahead and say these are ADF. But there are many rebel groups in that area, number one. Number two, we saw a situation where a number of people were butchered not long ago in the same in Kasese. And it seems like we are not learning anything from it. Yesterday, the president said that there are security lapses. Actually, he blamed that attack on security lapses. Even the other time, when a number of people were butchered in that area, he blamed it on the security lapses. So why would we keep on saying the ADF are very weak, we are going to deal with them decisively, and then they go away, and then at the same time you're blaming your own security for the lapses in the area? So it raises a lot of questions that the president needs to come out once and for all, deal with these lapses, and then wipe out those people in that area. That would be the thing, because you're not going today, you're telling us you're blaming your own security forces for the lapses in the area. You're saying the ADF, they are very weak now, they come and attack. You say they are very weak, they come and attack. So that's where my problem is. I'm not going to put any other comment on that. I'm only a bit reserved with my comments.
How do you recommend we prevent future atrocities such as this?
Of course, the pain is very terrible. Working with the local people is very important. number one. Number two, address the security lapses once and for all. Because you cannot, it bores us. All the time you're saying security lapses. All the time you're telling us security lapses. They are attacking us. Address the security lapses that are there once and for all.
Okay, let me ask you a tougher one. In the next financial year, should there be an increment in the security budget? Would you okay it?
Have they told you they don't have sufficient budget? We give security sufficient budget. Have they told you they don't have money?
Well, with the security lapses you're referring to, perhaps they will need extra funding to be able to deal with those lapses.
One of the lapses is having a thin security on the ground. Does that, yeah? And we give money. At least one area, one sector that takes a huge chunk of our budget is the security. And the security is given money. Yeah? First of all, there is money that is classified as classified. That is not accounted for. It is given to you the way you use it. It doesn't matter. You don't even account for it. So security, we give enough money to security. Okay.
Honorable Aber, as you're coming through to respond, also let's look into the, the security collaboration that we do have. The UK, as of yesterday, put out a security alert warning people and marking Uganda as a red zone right now as far as insecurity is concerned, and that is hitting the tourism sector so badly, which we need to remedy. And the question is, what are the remedies?
Well, first talking about the security lapses, when we talk about security lapses, or when the president mentions about the security lapses, there are things that may not be as big as we think. Not having intelligence about a situation is also a security lapse that it's supposed to be improved upon. And a war is a war. We shouldn't think that security things are very easy to do by either way. This brother of mine here is from the east. I am from the north. We went through the Konyi War for a very long time. Actually, you can't, for me, one thing I want us to be very objective about is issues to do with the fight, war, security issues. There are things that we cannot tell just by looking at it. Let's leave the experts do their work. I have very high trust in our security system in this country. And as I said, if Uganda was really this red spot that we are talking about, the frequency of these incidences would be maybe on a daily, on a weekly, on a monthly, but our security personnel are trying. Yes, there are gaps that needs to be filled, and some of these gaps also includes issues of manpower. We don't have enough money to recruit everybody to deploy per household. We can't. So the people that we have, that we are paying, they're doing their work. Some of the security lapses we are talking about also includes that. Individuals, human beings, are very difficult to deal with. I can tell you, you might have collaborators within that area who are our people, who are not security people, but they belong in those areas. When we are talking about these things of cattle raids in Karamoja and affecting part of Kitgum district, where I lead, Rom sub-county, in Gago, in, Teso, among the people, there were, some people were bringing allegations of having people who are coordinating with the Karamajongs. So, but we are putting all the blames on security. I think the fundamental key issue here is, how do we improve on our security? And what can I do as a legislator? What's my role? What is the role of the soldiers? What is the role of the intelligence people? What's the role of the community? This is a collective responsibility that we need to look at. And of course, you ask my colleague about issues of funding. Definitely, the security needs funding. They can't do anything without funding. We need to prioritize supporting security. I can tell you, every time the security officers come to Parliament, they are begging for money. They need to explain, we need this, we need that, we need this to be put in place. Of course, we run a cash budget, and sometimes the resources are not enough. But averagely, we have also tried to give some money. But we need to add more funding to security people to do their work on ground. Uganda security has tried in East Africa. We have these challenges of ADF, and definitely this attack was ADF, you can tell from the previous attacks that happened. But I'm still optimistic. One message I will not leave this place without mentioning is that there is no doom situation. this situation is bad, yes, but we are going to handle. The security people will handle. We don't need to lose hope and say, now maybe we are going to, because we have said it's a red spot, so Uganda is a no-go area. No, you can come as a tourist. This is just one of the, and you know when such things happen, they also make the security people get very alert, and they put, you know, you tie all the knots together and ensure that such a thing doesn't happen again.
Okay, Captain Babu, this comes barely a month after the Uganda Wildlife Authority embezzlement saga, the gorilla ticket scandal, and that already had tainted a picture that is terrible on the industry. And now you do have the attack not on the tourism sector directly, but on tourists, foreign at that directly. That's quite disturbing. How do we, what needs to be done, especially now for the line ministries that cater to tourism?
Yeah, the problem is sometimes we mix mismanagement of organizations with what is going on, even within the security. If there is mismanagement, of course, people they've given it this name called corruption. Basically, thieves who are in these organizations. But I want us to be very careful when talking about security. Security is a little bit more complex. If you look at a country like United States, probably the biggest in security, Israel, for example, and you talk about the Twin Tower bombing, you talk about the bombing the headquarters of the army, the Oklahoma bombing, bombing within the different parts of the United States.
And the continuous gun violence.
And the continuing gun violence. Even then, those are security lapses. That's what they mean by security lapses. What the president might not want to tell you, and using a very simple English word, security lapses could have been, they might have known in their intelligence organization that this thing we should be careful. Tourists might be attacked. Now, when this thing comes up, and the commanders sitting down do not wait, heavily, that is a security lapse. And by the way, what happened in that school? They had the intelligence. They had the intelligence on this one, I'm sure, and probably they thought it was not as important as the other problems they had. And this is what security lapses means. As we talk right now, Prime Minister, Right Honorable Netanyahu, is in a lot of problems. They say he has allowed security lapses for the Hamas to attack the Israelis. So when you talk about lapses, it means that you did not take quick action on some of these things in one way or the other. So when we are talking about security, we should really be a little bit more careful. I am not saying that we should not be acting, but we should be fast enough. And looking at the spans, the area, the locations, to cover it all with the kind of facilities that we do have as Uganda, you might not have that very good facilities that you might want to have. And this might not be as small as we think it is. Guerrilla warfare is very interesting because somebody is walking around in with the ordinary clothes and in a suit, in a dress, and they go and carry out this kind of thing. So we need to really sit down, and I think the president what he should do, and I think that's what the honourable member is saying, we want more information. I think it's fair. It's just that, with the TikTok and social media coming up, people are seeing a lot of things at the same time, and a lot of information does come out, and people have all sorts of things, and we also have interests. People want to see whether government is alert on their work, and I would like to say this: government has to put in more effort. That area is not very easy, and if we want the tourist industry going, we've got to find ways and means of protecting that route for the tourists. Okay,
all right. Now to the tourism sector, both public and the private players. What is the way forward for them?
Well, the way forward, first of all, government has to make sure that they create safety for our tourists who come from outside. But with these alerts being put out, the red alert really is not for us. It's for those people to cover themselves. They will be held at ransom if a British dies here and the British embassy here has not put out the alert. So it's the same with the Americans. Now that's their system of work. And I think they have already said this is happening. And they also have security intelligence. Do not underestimate them. They know what is going on. And that's why sometimes I think we are a little bit naive on security. Very naive. These guys can cut. Because I've heard people saying, why are they talking about bombs? Well, why are these bombs happening here and there? That is insecurity. And I've heard even people say, no. It is the security themselves who are making these bombs. I've heard this kind of thing. Unfortunately, that is naivety. I don't think a security officer, unless if he's mad like the policeman who went to kill a moneylender, that was obvious. But these others, I don't think somebody would plant a bomb just to make a point, unless if he was part of the terrorists. He could be within the government, but part of the what? Of the terrorists. And then that's a different argument.
Okay.
Now, terrorism is going to be there because we have our problems with different groups.
All right, the tourism sector is looking for answers, but we not seem to be having the answers from this table, and so that's a rock and a hard place for them because they need to be supported in recovery.
The government is the only one that can give that assurance.
Okay.
We can sit here and talk about it and debate about it and be nice and polite and all that, but at the end of the day, the back is with the security.
Okay. All right. Now, switching gears, Honorable Aber said sometimes humans are